Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Flags in a Gym, a podcast dedicated to all things color guard. My name is Eric. I'm your host and resident color guard nerd, and today's episode continues our freight train of our 2026 Regional Recap series with the Manhattan Beach Regional Plus event. Lots of guards to talk about, lots of really cool shows, so sit back, relax, and let's talk some color guard. Welcome back, everyone. We're here for another recap episode, and I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Two big announcements before we get started, though. I do want to let everyone know. First, I officially have a merch store. Many of you asked about merch or ways to support the podcast, which, sidebar, is really sweet of you. I've always talked about this as just kind of my labor of love project. I never really expected anything, but many of you have reached out asking about ways to support or whatnot. So this is a way you can support me and the podcast. It's taken some time, but I have a small merch store set up with my Clap for the Flags line of merchandise. There's two styles to choose from, and you can get it on shirts, hoodies, or a tote bag at the moment. There's no podcast logo stuff yet, as that's undergoing a redesign. But for now, you can buy the Clap for the Flags gear to show your support here and to spread our message of clapping for the flags, more importantly. The link to the store can be found on my Instagram and Facebook bio, and also I'll put it here in the show notes for you. My second big announcement is the Dayton Predictions episode is coming back again this year, and this time I'm including a community contest aspect as well. You'll be able to make your own predictions and enter and have the chance to win prizes. All the rules and information will be posted to Instagram and Facebook soon. If you want to take part, make sure you're following there. I plan to open it up after the final regional weekend on the 21st and 22nd in a couple weeks. More to come on that, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Last very quick announcement, make sure you're following the podcast on Instagram, as that's my main source of information and contact. I'm working on getting into TikTok, but I'm an elder millennial and I've never used it, and I'm not really sure how or what format I want to get my content onto TikTok with. So yeah, it's a work in progress. I officially have an account there, but there's nothing there. That's it at this point. But if you could follow on Instagram for all the latest news, if you want to message me, that is by far the best way. You can message me on Facebook as well, or email at flagsinagym.pod@gmail.com. If you're interested in the Dayton Predictions contest or anything like that, make sure you're following on Instagram. Let's talk about the weekend as a whole. We had 7 more regionals this week with Manhattan Beach and the Tulsa Plus events. And then we had Knoxville, Seattle, Minneapolis, Memphis, and Union City regionals as well. 3 of these were 2-day regionals. We had our first 90 of the season with Paramount, and then they popped a 92 in finals. Shout out to Madison Central High School in Kentucky for winning the Knoxville Regional Scholastic A. Yay! I loved them in Indy, and it looks like they are hitting their stride right now. So yes, very, very nice job. And flow overall was much better this weekend. We had one issue that we'll get to when we get to the color guard. But overall, the picture was great. The feed was great. Sound was a little bit weird because they didn't pipe it directly into the feed. So voiceovers were kind of hard to hear at times, but at least we could see everything that was going on. And just a blanket statement here up front about the flow camera, so I don't have to harp on it in every single show later. Remember, it's not the best picture. It's not the clearest. So colors and images don't always come through perfectly. So if I incorrectly say your flag or uniform is a certain color, I'm just going off what I can see. So if it looks blue to me, I'm going to say it looks blue. It could be purple, but unfortunately, they don't use the best cameras. And especially these digital flags that have intricate designs on them that are spinning really fast, it's hard to see what's on them. If you haven't listened to the previous recap episodes, welcome on in. And here's how they work. I'm going to go through the guards and let you know what everyone is doing, how the show flows, any fun highlights or cool moments to keep an eye out for if you watch it in the future, kind of things I notice, maybe little story bits I notice. I can't cover everyone due to the size of the regional. So if I miss your group, I'm sorry. I'm happy to give you my thoughts directly if you want them. Just message me on Instagram and we can chat about your group. And lastly, remember, it's all in good fun. I'm just giving you my 2 cents, my thoughts, and it's all out of love and support and all of that good stuff. Let's get into talking about the color guards. We're going to start with Scholastic A. There were 15 guards in finals. We're going to cover the top 7 because we have a lot of color guards to talk about. There are 9 world guards, and there were like 12 open guards total, so we can't even cover all of them. And I want to give as many people as I can coverage, but we can't do everybody. 7th place was La Mirada High School, and their show this year is called Call Me Jackie. It's a Jackie O show, and I remember this guard from last year because they did Taylor the Latte Boy last year, and it was super, super cute. So I was like, "Oh, I remember this guard." But this year's Jackie Onassis Kennedy, right? They're all in pink suits, very reminiscent of what Jackie O would wear. And they have 6 large open frame props around the floor that eventually drop down a picture of Jackie O. So it's just a big empty frame at the beginning of the show. And then throughout the show, they move around and they have moments where they drop a picture down to reveal. The song they use is Jackie Onassis by Sammy Ray and the Friends. And I'd never heard of this group, but it kind of gives me Megan Trainor vibes, just kind of like listening to it. It's like, oh, this is kind of catchy, kind of boppy, but it's not her. They start the show with quick body into a Saber turnaround. Yes, nicely done, Saber. And then the center picture drops on the catch. So that's kind of where we're going through the show is we have moments and then a picture usually tied to a moment it reveals. They continue to spin Saber, they add a flag, and it looks like it's a Life magazine cover of her, because I from what I could see, that's what it looks like. And they have a very cool toss through the props moment before the backside 2 prop drops with a rifle solo in front. So they toss, walk through the open frames catch, and then in backside 2, there's a rifle solo, and then the picture drops on that catch there. Then they have a rifle ripple that leads us to another picture opening, and then they have an all rifle feature that ends with a toss and catch around another frame as that picture drops. Lots of these cool little moments. And then we have more and more tosses as we head towards a flag feature. And then they pull out this like white creamish flag that has the name Jackie written on it. The J is really big. And then there's ACKIE, a smaller, kind of like a script, kind of cursive y kind of writing. And the ending flag toss is money. It's a 45 with a jump turn, clapping. Yeah, excellent, excellent. And then they dwindle off to the backside 1 corner where the final picture drops, and they had a oopsie. They had the prop backwards because it dropped down and it was just solid black. And I'm like, I don't think that's supposed to be it. Cause, I'm like, what's going on? And then as they're leaving the floor, you can see the picture on the backside. So they just little whoopsie of having the brought the wrong way. But the all the pictures that they revealed during the show were black and white, and then that final picture, I caught a glimpse of it as they were leaving the floor, is in color, and she's in a bright pink suit like they were wearing. So you miss that final, like, oh, like that little nugget to connect everything. But it happens. We've all done it. We've all set that prop wrong or something like that. So, but it was a very nice show and very cute. 6th place was Clovis High School with their show Bitter Earth. And y'all, this is nothing against the color guard, I promise. This song needs to be retired from color guard. Nothing against the team or anything, just this song has been beat to death in the sport. And I'm pretty sure in prelims we had 2 guards within the span of 3 do the song. We've seen this thousands and thousands of times in color guard. Let's retire this song. But let's talk about these kids who are great. They have a really cool tessellated floor of triangles that are like mostly neutral colors, like earthy neutrals. And then they have a couple splashes of color kind of mixed in there. It's really cool. And their uniforms are the same too. I looked and went and found them on Instagram. And the uniforms have that same tessellated triangle pattern in lots of colors. They open with body into rifle solos with some very nice catches. And then flags come out on the floor with like a dark green. It looked to be tessellated as well, like the floor and the uniforms. And like I said, the costuming is kind of in like a burnt sienna color of like little patches of color. And then, yeah, very nice. It's really, really lovely on Instagram. So I'm sure in person, like, oh, those are beautiful. Rifles and flag spin before everyone switches to saber. So they have a nice full ensemble saber moment. And then they transition into purple flags for a feature that moves around the floor. The form keeps moving around the floor. And I feel like they could layer this feature a little bit, just kind of spice it up because it's all unison flat to the front for pretty much the majority of it. So give me some A and B, some front and back work, just to add some texture in there. But then they cap it with a 45 and finish with body. It's a great show. The kids are talented. 5th place was Savannah High School and their show Through It All. And their show used the Celine Dion cover of My Way. And they had a cobblestone road floor that kind of goes on a 45 from side 1, front corner to side 2, back corner. New York style building props on back side 1 corner with a little scaffold in front to kind of symbolize like the fire escapes and whatnot and the balconies that you could stand on. And then they have a lamp post in the side 2 front corner. They're in chocolate brown costumes with like a bronze trimming, and they open with body going down the road until we have a rifle crack. I mean, crack like a six. Like, seriously, they nailed the crap out of this toss. Like, yeah, they were like, boom, right from the get go. More rifles with more solid catches come out until a solo flag enters, and it's like a maroon to yellow fade. And then the rifles and flags spin together, and we have more great solos. And that leads to a saber solo at the end of the first chorus. Because remember, the song builds and builds and builds and builds, and then it drops back down again. And then it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. At the end of that first build, we have a toss ripple that leads us to a saber, and then that brings us back down to the second down moment. Then the sabers and flags continue to spin. They leave the same silk on the floor. And then they move to a flag feature of white flags with a yellow tail and a picture of something on them. I couldn't tell if it was family members, if it was pictures of like Frank Sinatra in his time. I couldn't tell what it was. The one thing with the flag feature, I did notice there were some weird directional changes with the choreography that caused a lot of the kids to get sales, like a very quick, like immediate reverse in direction of the work. So just tweak that so that we can get the full effect of the work, do that quick little swoop at the bottom, things like that. Just that's one thing I noticed. The feature's great. It's just we were getting all those sales and it kind of hindered the moment. That's all. Easy fix though. Great job, Savannah High School. Fourth place, we had Rancho Cucamonga High School with their show Up in the Attic. And they had a hardwood floor in an attic tarp, like that dark wood, and they were really wide panels. And the music is The Place Where Lost Things Go by Tony DeSayer and Ted Firth. They have 3 stacks of boxes. They have one on the center and then on side 2, and they're boxes and like old kid stuff like a wagon and children's blocks. Basically, all those things you don't use anymore that you just kind of stuff up in the attic. And they're dressed in black tops with a tan beige bottom and trim. And this girl comes out with this opening rifle solo. I mean, wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. More rifles enter, and they are excellent. This weapon line is crazy good. A darker green flag comes out, and it's kind of like a drab green, like that army OD green color, kind of to match the whole like musty, dirty attic theme. It makes a lot of sense in the color story. I know I'm not making it sound like a pretty color because it's not, but I don't think it's intended to be, right? We're in a dingy, dirty attic, right? So the color is not going to be a pretty vibrant green. It's going to be this old, faded kind of green. The flags and rifles spin before they switch to blade. The sabers spin, and then out comes like a dark gold flag where they do a feature with that. Once again, it's kind of like a drabby kind of gold, kind of sticking with this whole musty, dirty attic theme. And they cap their feature with a Ripple Jazz Split 45, which was excellent, excellent. And then the feature keeps continuing. This is a long flag feature, and then it moves into the side one back corner with more tosses. And this one as well could use some layering to break up the unity for a bit. And then they dwindle off with some double flag before finishing in the center of the floor, kind of becoming the lost things. Very cute show. Kids are incredibly talented. Some of those rifles are amazing. Amazing. So nice job, Rancho Cucamonga. Third place, we had Diamond Bar High School with their show All Tied Up. And they had a black floor with neckties printed on it that were coming straight down from the back of the floor to the front. They had neckties in black, white, gray, and red. Red is like the highlight color of the show. Everything's kind of in black, white, and gray, and then they use red as the highlight color. And they're using an accordion version of La Campanella. It's a piano piece that is extremely difficult, and I can't even imagine trying to play this on accordion. So props to the musician, whoever played this, because this piece is incredibly tricky. The costuming is pants and a shirt vest combo. We're kind of going with like the menswear theme. And they start with body on the red tie section of the floor. Sabers enter before flags join. And when the flags join, the silks are all various black and white patterns like you would see in men's suiting. Houndstooth, plaid, check, argyle. There's even one that's just kind of like a straight fade. And they all have a red strip on them about a third of the way from the top of the silk. So the red is the constant and the black and white is different across all the flags. And then again, another lovely flag toss goes completely ignored. This crowd, I'm calling y'all out, Manhattan Beach crowd, there were many, many color guards that did amazing flag things that you were not clapping for. Clap for the flags, people. Clap for the flags. Rifles enter after a flag solo, And they have a nice moment where flags make us look at various sections of the guns to coincide with the music. Like it's just very musically well written, and there's like these little ripples in the music, and the flags the flags spin and stop pointing to side one, and we look over there and there's a gun toss, and the flags spin again because they're in the center of the floor, and then they gesture to side two, and then we look over there. It's very well done. It's very smart, very musical. The flags move off to let the guns have the floor before they come out with necktie flags, which are pretty cool. It's a smaller flag, so it's maybe about half the size of a normal silk, like top to bottom, but it's longer, and it's meant to look like a men's lapel and neckline with a red tie, and the red tie continues through the bottom of the flag like a streamer. So the base part of the silk is like white and gray, like you would see in a suit, and then the red line goes down the center, and then the red line continues through the end of the flag. It needs cleaning. It is dirty, and I think the various prints on the black and white flags are making it trickier for them to clean because that constant is that red line, and there's so much like visual noise with the different patterns of the white and gray that if they're not spick and span, they look dirtier than they are. And then obviously these ending flags, that streamer tail, also same thing, that red line within that bright white. So once they get cleaned up, it'll be excellent. So they'll get to cleaning. Still have a month to go in the season. They're going to be great. And I love this idea. I thought it was super cute. It was unique. And yeah, I dig it. Second place, we had Foothill High School from Nevada and their show Ride or Die. And they're doing a Bonnie and Clyde show. And their floor is just a print of newspaper headlines all about Bonnie and Clyde. They're all just kind of like overlaid of each other. And they have a car on the floor, like a legit like Volkswagen Beetle. I know it's not full size, but it's like 75% normal size, and it's on a like a platform prop that they can wheel around. It doesn't move, but when they left the floor, like the car itself doesn't move. It's sitting on a platform. But I'm like, this is crazy. Did you build this or did you get like an actual car? The pre-show is like all APBs and news bulletins, like clever use of the pre-show to announce the show start because it's like news bulletins. Bonnie and Clyde found dead, blah 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 blah, going on and on and on, and then performing their show. It just ties right in. It's a cute way to get the pre-show announcement in. The music is "Raise a Little Hell" by Jordan Luke Gage and the cast of Bonnie and Clyde. And then they also use a song called Kingsman Hoedown. I think they have a couple others. And they start with Body until a rifle solo on the hood of the car. And holy crap, that true port catch. Like East Coast port, straight up and down. I mean, just the gun just stopped, right? Wow. Excellent, excellent, excellent. They move to everyone on gun. It's high energy. There's lots of motion on the floor. And I remember loving them last year too. I remember both Foothill and Canyon. I remember seeing them last year. I believe Foothill did if I'm remembering correctly, it was a song from Beyonce's country album that they did. And they had like a country house in the back left. I'm pretty sure that was Foothill. Correct me if I'm wrong, Foothill, but I believe that was you. And this guard needs to go to Dayton. I don't know if they're going this year. I know Canyon, who came in first, is, but I don't know if this one's going, but this guard needs to go to Dayton. They do more and more rifle before the line splits into gun and saber. The flags are out here too with something making an X on them. I couldn't see what was making the X, but there is some sort of X pattern on the flag. The high energy stuff stops, and then we have a news announcement of Bonnie and Clyde's deaths. And that takes us to a down moment of the show. And then the music becomes "The Last Time I've Seen the Sun" from Sinners starts up for the body feature. Sabers come back out and do some do-si-do tosses, where you toss facing somebody and you kind of walk past each other. You toss your equipment to the right and then you walk around each other and go catch your own equipment. I don't know what those are called. I call it like a do-si-do where you kind of just walk around your partner. Eventually, a red flag joins them with a big white splotch on it. No clue what it is. It could have been like a bloodstained napkin or something like that. It could have been a flower. I don't know. It's a nicely layered ensemble moment. And then they have this super cool moment where everything just hits slow-mo. There's a sustained held note in the music. And they're spinning and spinning. And all of a sudden, they just slow-mo for like 8 counts where they're slowly raising their flag. They're all pointing at the car. And then immediately out of that, they just woof right up into a 45. It's so good. Whoever wrote this flag feature, yes, it is excellent. Then they do more spinning. Then they do a knee slide 45. These kids are amazing. Take this guard to Dayton, please. I don't know if you're going this year. I don't think I've seen you on the rankings, but take this guard to Dayton. Y'all are incredible. Moving on to our first place group, Canyon High School from California, and their show Feeling All Right. And I am so sorry, y'all. Flo did you all so dirty. So I can't cover it as I'd want to because Flo decided to air commercials during your show. I don't know if somebody was asleep at the switch and they were like, oh crap, this show started. And then all of a sudden, Flo pops in and you are 2/3 of the way through your show. I have no idea what you did the first 2/3 of your show. When Flo decided to actually broadcast their show, they were already at the tail end of their all rifle feature. And then all of a sudden they're going into a flag ensemble. From what I saw, they were using the song Piano Man by Billy Joel. I don't know if it's just that song, if there's more Billy Joel songs earlier in the show, no clue. The ensemble flags are black and gold. The feature is great with lots of layering and then a sit roll 45. They transition off into body and they were done. And that's the end of the show. I literally saw maybe a minute of the show because Flo was airing commercials while they were performing. Get it together, Flo. Come on. They are going to Dayton. I think they're pretty near the top of the rankings right now. So I'm assuming the rest of the show is excellent based on their score and placement. So I'm sorry, Kenyon. I wish I could have seen the whole thing. Let's move on to Independent A. We had 3 in finals. Our third place unit was Vox Artium A in their show The Heart Remembers Home. And they're doing kind of a Wizard of Oz, Wiz, Somewhere Over the Rainbow combination amalgam of that. Their floor is a yellow brick road in the front, and then the back third, it's the red poppies on the floor from the field of poppies, and they have a couple stand-up props in the back. The costumings are some are in skirts, some are in pants, and then some have a capelet on top and looks like blues with like accents of red and white. And the pre-show starts with Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and it continues right into the actual show. Rainbow flags come out. They're all like solid color flags with a design on them of all colors. So like there's a red flag with the design on it, an orange one, and whatnot. And they go right into a flag feature, which is lovely. So they open the show with a flag feature full of color to Somewhere Over the Rainbow with rainbow colors on the floor. And then after the feature, we dwindle off and do body, and then Sabers enter. Then there's a section of just voiceovers, and then the music transitioned into a cover of Home from The Wiz, and the backdrops change. And I believe the cover is from Pose. I looked it up. It's Billy Porter and somebody else. I'm sorry to the other singer. I looked it up and forgot to write it down. But that's the version they use. And then some pinkish purple flags come and enter and to join the sabers. And then rifles enter from the back, and all 3 pieces are working on the floor. They break up into groups of 4, so rifle, saber, flag, and dancer. And they have this little pod feature, where there's little pods all over the floor before they go into a ripple feature into a giant rifle toss, maybe a 7, could be an 8. It was big. It was a big toss. The rifles have a feature before being joined by a flag with a heart on it with the word home, pretty sure, on the top of the heart. So if you would draw a heart, the 2 bumps at the top that make the actual heart shape, chop that off and put the word home there. And then that triangle section is underneath it. That's kind of how they did the flag. And the home looks to be in a rainbow font. They do another flag feature with these, and then they charge to the front and end with a 45. Like they have all the flags in the back, and they kind of charge the front of the floor while spinning. I always loved that idea when guards did that. Doesn't get used that much anymore. It used to be a big thing back in my time, but now it's not seen as much. So I liked that. I was like, oh, this is kind of a fun throwback to my time. And they end with a 45, and then that's the end of the show. They kind of drape the silk out for you to read, and that's the end of the show. It's very cute. Second place was Maharlika with their show Pages of the Past. And their floor is white in the center with yellowing and graying into black on the edges. And they're in like a crushed gray velvet unitard. And they start all in the 50 with a rifle soloist prepping on the pre-show announcement. Like they're getting ready to toss, performing their program. Like right as the show, performing their program, WGI is proud to present Maharlika Winterguard toss. Like, I mean, immediately. They catch, then they move into body, and the music is nocturne in A minor. And they have this thing throughout the entire show where they throw handfuls of pages into the air, like 20, 30 pages at a time. Like confetti paper explosions, but they're full sheets of paper. And there's lots of body in the beginning. They enter with a rifle solo with a slide through toss. So somebody, standing in a wide second tosses, and then a body person runs and slides through their legs while the gun's in the air. And then we have more rifles enter from there. The rifles work the floor before more pages are starting to get thrown, and then flags enter behind them. It's a gray and yellow marbled flag to kind of match the tones that are on the floor. We have a lot of rifle spinners on there, and they form an X on the floor, and the flags move around, and then we switch. So the rifles do like a park and bark while the flags are moving, And then the flags do a park and bark while the rifles are moving. And then all of a sudden, everybody's on gun. They do an ensemble triple immediately, followed by a solo two turn. They really keep the eye moving, keeping things moving. And then there's more paper explosions as they transition to the side one back corner. Sabers come out with body, and a blue flag with a red strip joins them before very quickly leaving. Like, these flags were only on the floor like maybe 3 sets. If that, it was a very, very quick color thing. I don't know why, but I don't know the story element of that, but maybe they just wanted a splash of color. Then out come these tan caramel colored flags. They're like a solid flag, or red is a solid flag that they ensemble with. They toss, and then more papers and so many papers all over the place. Then they end the show. It's they've got some cleaning to do, but it's got a very good solid base. Like, it still needs some cleaning. It's still early. We've got a month till Dayton. We're gonna say this a lot, but we're getting to that point. It's like, okay, now we've got to start cleaning because we're entering, as this comes out, we're entering the second full week of March. And Dayton's gonna come real quick. Real quick for many of these color guards because there's 2 more regional weekends, circuit championships, and then Dayton. So, but I like what they have. I like their base, and the one to keep an eye out for Independent A finals for sure. First place was Impulse Winter Guard with their show Stay Gold. And the floor is kind of like a junkyard scene from what I could tell, like the printed tarp and then the props they have on top. Like, they have ladders and they have 2x4s and they have tires. So kind of like a junkyard theme. And the music is Stay Gold from the Outsiders. Their uniforms are like a blue and purple, and I get kind of an overall vibe from them, like a coverall kind of work suit from what I could see. And they open with body and a rifle solo in the backside two corner with a very nice smack, nice little excellent job. A pink and blue flag joins in, and it looks like there's a design on it. We have exchanges of more flags into the field, into the floor when rifles continue to add in also. So, like, we're chucking flags into the floor for people to spin them. We have a rifle flag moment where they use the tire as a prop, and they have some really fun uses of the tires here. Like, they'll lay the flag on it and they'll kind of pop up. They'll smack the end of the flag so it pops up off the tire, and then the rifles sit down to catch on the tire, and then they're rolling kind of side to side on them. And then they follow up with a really cool 2x4 rifle trick where the rifles toss, and then the 2x4 goes over and under the performer, like goes over their head, and they jump over it, and then they catch their gun. A new flag gets introduced of purple, white, and a red or pink. And they're in vertical stripes like you would see like on the French or the Irish national flag, those 3 like rectangles. This one's like purple, white, and then like a reddish pink. We continue with rifle and flags until saber is introduced along the way with a gray and yellow flag. And they do some cool tricks with the sabers and 2x4s. Like, they'll lay the saber on the 2x4 and then they lift the 2x4 real quick, kind of like a catapult, to launch the saber at them. Then they make a little bridge out of the ladders and 2x4s. And then they use this as expected, just like you would any prop like this. They're spinning around it, they're tossing over it, all that good stuff. They use this prop well. They move to an ensemble with these gray and yellow flags, and they throw a beautiful 45 working from the end of the pole. And then they do a very quick finish out with body. Nicely done, Impulse. I like this one too. Let's move on to Scholastic Open. We had 9 in finals, and we're going to cover the top 5. I'm sorry I can't do all 9. We're going to cover the top 5. Fifth place was Clovis North High School Varsity in their show Homage to the Square. And this was a guard that was promoted from Scholastic A last year. They were 4th in finals at Dayton, so they got promoted to Open. The whole show, inspiration and everything, is taken from an artist's work called Homage to the Square. And there's an opening monologue that explains it all. The floor is really cool. It's a white floor with 54 squares on it. I checked. It's a 9x6 pattern. And each square has 4 different colors in it. So, like, if you have a big square, then a smaller square, then a smaller square, and then a solid square in the center of one actual square. So the outside is like red, and then the next line in is yellow, and the next side in is green, and then the center is orange. And they're all various colors. The floor is basically taken directly from the artwork. So I'll put a link to a picture of the artwork so you can see, because the floor was very cool. And then they have a square stage platform prop with PVC poles that kind of make it into a cube. So the stage is flat, and then they have some vertical poles to make it look like a cube. They start with body during the voiceover explaining what they're referencing and what the show is. And then folk dances from the U.S. Navy Band starts playing, and sabers come out. Flags join, and the silks have the same multi-square pattern as the floor, and they're in all different colors. They have a cute saber toss over the flags and then a wraparound toss shortly after. So the sabers toss over the pole, walk under the flag, catch, and then the flags immediately do a swoop-de-doo and reach around the sabers as they toss again and then resume from there. They move the cube across the floor and switch to gun. Gun and flag work on side one. And they have a long popcorn feature from the group, which is fun. And then they have a really nice rifle section where the music gets really runny, right? Like, and they have lots of little hand tricks and under the leg stuff that mimics the quickness of the music. Lots of musicality here. Then they move to an ensemble flag section with a red and purple flag in the square motif. And then after the feature, they pick guns back up with some feature tosses, and they end the show with a toss over and off the cube prop. So they're in the middle of the cube, they toss, they hop down and catch. And yeah, I think they've done a great job with the transition to Scholastic Open. Keep plugging away. I don't think they're going to Dayton this year. I think they're taking the year off just because it's so expensive to get there from California. So hopefully we'll see them next year at Dayton. Fourth place was Etowanda High School with their show Drifting Apart. Now, I don't know if it's Etowanda or Etowanda. If somebody wants to correct me, I always like to pronounce things correctly. I'm one of those people. Pronounce the name it's supposed to be pronounced. Their show is very watery, very water based. So the floor is a blue water floor, kind of like a wave crashing on a shore. So you've got those like white sea foamy bubbles and stuff on it. And the guard isn't all blue. And they have a small stage prop that starts on side two and it's on wheels. And it's just a square little platform prop. And they use music from The Impossible. That's what my phone told me. They start with body and begin to push the stage around the floor. Saber intros come from the little platform with a lovely here you go blind toss exchange. You know, you toss it and you just kind of chuck it behind you to somebody blindly. They start with that. Went perfectly. Then more saber spin and a white sheer flag gets thrown out to a performer on the stage, on the platform. We keep moving, and then the sabers are tossing, and then the same sheer flag ends up getting thrown to someone with the sabers. And I saw this coming a mile away because the performer on the platform was just waiting and waiting and waiting and staring at the person they were going to chuck the flag to. Let's not telegraph these moments, y'all, right? Make it a surprise. Have this person spin, and then all of a sudden, woof, here you go. And then they're just chucking it across the floor. But I was looking, and I'm like, okay, they're going to throw it to somebody. They're going to throw it. Oh, here it comes. Right? Make it a surprise. That's all. More sheer flags join and sabers and flags spin together before rifles are introduced via the platform. They have some quick, well done transitions that gets everyone on gun. Like, seriously, I didn't see it happen. Like, these transitions were done very well because I'm like, how did everybody get on gun so quick? They split the platform apart. So the platform is actually two pieces connected. And at this point, they split the stage apart to symbolize the whole drifting apart with the show title and theme. And then after a toss, they move to a flag ensemble with a white to blue faded flag. It's very pretty. However, the white is right along the pole. And we know those white lines and flags can be brutal if we're not clean. They have a very long feature with these flags, and they have solo toss moments and exchanges. And it ends with a duo sit roll toss. And they were smart to make sure that the sit rolls went away from each other because we're drifting apart. Like just little things like that are smart design choices, right? If our show is drifting apart, let's make sure our moments are pulling apart. And that's exactly what they did here. At the very end of the show, the stage had been reassembled at that point, and they had two performers standing on it, and they end the show by them literally pulling them apart to the two corners of the floor, and the rest of the guard kind of is in between them, and the show ends. Very, very clever design nuggets in the show. They're kind of at the point where a lot of guards are. It's like now we need to start cleaning. Right? We need to start cleaning and polishing up so these moments have more impact, but the base is great. Nicely done, Etowanda. Third place, we had Gar High School and their show String Theory. And this floor, I'm in love. I'm in love with their floor. It's a red, orange, and yellow ombre from side one, front to side back two, but the majority of it is orange. So you know I love it because I love orange. Then they have spools of thread props all over with colored thread to match the section of the floor it's in. So the spool that's in the red section has red thread, and the one that's in the yellow section has yellow, and all the colors in between. The guard is in brown unitards with orange accent lines. And they start with body and they pull string from the pod in the center, like out. And rifles enter and we popcorn during a piano run. There's a lots on gun and we do a big gun feature on the side two front corner. Yeah, the guns are killing it. Guns are killing it. And then flags enter and they kind of have like an orangey dyed stripe material. Like it's not like a sewn pattern. It's almost like a kind of like a tie-dye effect almost, but it's done in vertical stripes. And they're all spinning on top of the spools. And then sabers enter, and we're working all three pieces of equipment together, and they're using the ropes too. I'm calling them ropes because they use rope for the thread on the spool. And then we move to a down moment, and then they pull out red chain flags. Yes, chain flags. Yes, yes. I love that we're seeing a resurgence of like chain flags. This is so cool. And if you don't know what a chain flag is, it's back in the day, you literally had a flag on a chain. So that way you had the weight to it and you would whip it around. Usually now it's on a rope, and then you put a heavy weight on the end, and there's just a silk connected to a rope, and you swing it around kind of like a lasso, and you just kind of swing the rope around, and there's a silk trailing off of it. So they have a chain flag section, and then we have a rifle toss that goes right into a music bump. Like there's a big hit in the music and a rifle catch on it. Yellow flags come out to join, and we move to an ensemble with these, and there's some sort of design on them, but I couldn't tell what it was. And this feature is heavily layered. Heavily layered. I loved it. They move back to the spools, and a rifle soloist picks up a rope and tosses their gun and turns around while holding the rope so the rope wraps their body, and then they catch with one hand to end the show. It's a very nice touch. I like this one a lot, and their outdoor was super cute too. I saw them at one of the BOA regionals. I see y'all over there. I see you, Gar High School. You keep working. You guys are climbing over there. Second place was Palm Desert Charter Middle School and their show After the Darkest Lines. The music is Gravity by Sarah Bareilles, and it's mixed with a string piece. They mixed the two together a lot, and I couldn't get the string piece to trigger on my phone. The floor is a fade of black to blue to purple. So starting in side back one corner, coming up to front side two corner, it's black, and then it fades into a blue, then into a purple. And then there are just some black lines printed on the floor, just kind of randomly. And then they have props of these same kind of lines that are just kind of all like intersecting and overlaid of each other, and they're on movable stage. It's kind of very an abstract kind of thing. And the guard is in marbled purple uniforms. Very pretty. Let's just say it up front, because we always say this when we talk about this group. These are middle schoolers. This is mind blowing that these are middle schoolers. Just, yeah. I mean, just we're going to clap right from the start. I just, so the fact that they're competing against high schoolers and holding their own and being so successful is just incredible because they're so young. And yeah. This is a whole separate conversation. I would love to talk to the director of this group. I would love to do a program showcase on Palm Desert Charter Middle School. So if you're listening, reach out to me. Let's schedule something after Dayton because I would love to talk about this whole organization. But let's get back to this show. They open with body and rifles, and they have rifle solos with partner catches. Like they'll hop on them while the gun is in the air, and they catch like up on a shoulder and then around their waist or kind of grabbing onto their chest. And then all of a sudden, everybody's on gun, and they use the black lines on the floor, like they're all standing on the lines. They throw an ensemble quad from the entire color guard. And then the piano piece kind of comes back in, and the rifles spin to match the notes, and flags come out with an iridescent flag. It's like purple with a hint of either green or yellow on the end. It's iridescent, so who knows what the actual color is. And these kids are amazing. And I know they can't get extra points for being so young, but like really, like I think they should because it just there's with the training of these kids, they only get 3 years, right? It's a middle school. It's a 6, 7, 8 school. And they don't get the 9 through 12 high school experience. Plus, a lot of these high schools, these kids are spinning in 7th and 8th grade. So it's like some of these like Avon, Carmel, Tarpon kids, like they're spinning on the world level as early as 7th or 8th grade. So you think you have all those years to develop. And with being a middle school, you get these kids for 3 years tops. And to be at this level, yeah, I don't want to get off track here, but I would love to talk about this program. So they do have they are handicapped a bit in the fact that of one, their age, and two, just their time limit in school because they only have 3 years as opposed to 4 or 5 years when they're older and stronger. But we have saber solos that lead us to a flag ensemble of these same purple to yellow iridescent flags. They have a nice spinning moment during a sustained moment in the music, followed up by a 45 with an under the leg catch. Like there's just a big sustained note, and they're just twirling. And they throw a 45, catch under the leg, and then they move to the props and they finish out with body and a solo flag. I will say their prelims run was better, but God, these kids are incredible. Like everybody else, they just need to get to cleaning. Just get to cleaning, get things tightened up, and yeah, this will make finals at Dayton. Like, unless something catastrophic happens, this should make finals at Dayton. I know we all want to see them medal and make world, so we can say we have a world class middle school guard. Hopefully that happens at some point. We'll see. Good luck to Palm Desert Charter Middle School. I love you. This was probably my favorite in open class, just because it's just beautiful. It was so, especially prelims. Prelims was gorgeous. I was just like, they finished in prelims, and I'm just like, I even put it on Instagram. I'm like, wow, just wow. That's all I could say when they were done. Stunning job. Let's move on to first place in Scholastic Open, which was Vista Murrieta High School with their show, Not All Those Who Wander Are Lost. And they have a gorgeous blended floor of yellow, green, and blue. And they have 7 really tall dandelion props. So there's just a green stem, and they have the dandelion at the top of the white seeds that you would blow as a kid, not the yellow dandelion. This is after it's died and gone to seed. And the guard is in sleeveless unitards that go from white down to a yellowy green and then all the way down to green at the legs. They start in the side one back corner, and the music piece with a voiceover starts, and the music seemed to be spiral for violin. They open with body and poses and lifts, and then a rifle soloist enters as the music picks up and the voiceover continues. They have rifle solos around the dandelion props, and then the flags begin to enter. And it's a black flag, which I'm pretty sure has the picture of the gray fuzzy white dandelion on most of it. I'm just kind of assuming based on what it looked like and the show. They have a rifle cannon happen, and then we all come back together, and the rifles form a circle and do an exchange around the circle, which was really cool. And then the music changes again to a faster piece. And this one has been used a lot in color guard recently. Noir used this in their typewriter show. Somebody else is using this year. It's a great color guard song. So we're gonna start hearing this a lot more. I couldn't get it to trigger on my phone though. So I was like, I know what this is. I've heard it before, but I don't know the name of it. They have green flags enter and then join the Sabres, and then all 3 are working. And yes, flag line, y'all were killing it. Flag line was killing it. Yes. Then they up the tempo again, and out comes a pink and yellow flag as Sabres work off to grab the same flag and join. They do popcorn flag tosses, and then we have a feature for a bit while mostly on the ground. Most of the flag feature, they're sitting, laying on the ground, and then they just stand up and throw a turnaround 45. Then we exchange the flags off, and body finishes out the show. So this is a show that builds and builds and builds and builds. Then we get the flag feature, and they kind of bring it back down again. It's very well done. The kids are very well trained. Excellent job, Vista Murrieta. Let's move on to Independent Open. We had 3 in finals. Third place was Arias Winter Guard with their show, Creature Show. And this is the Jim Henson Muppet Show. I don't know if you heard about it or just maybe caught wind of it. The pre-show is the Muppet Show theme song. So the pre-show, I was like, "Ooh, you getting me already." Unfortunately, the pre-show doesn't match the energy of the actual show, but it's very fitting because it's all about Jim Henson, the man who created the Muppets. So they use the Muppet Show theme song. And then Kermit does their performing their show. WGI Sporty Arts is proud to present. They have a mostly white floor with a couple splotches of color and like rough sketches of some of the Muppets. Like on side 2, like you can see Big Bird, and then on side 1, there's very abstract drawings of some Muppets and almost like a color test palette kind of on the floor. And then they have a lamppost on side 2. They open with body and voiceovers talking about Jim Henson, and they have a saber duet with a behind the back blade toss catch at the beginning. Then black and white flags join the sabers, and they move into a trio section of sabers, flag, and body. Then we have a rifle catch that takes us to a soundtrack change to a cover of It's Not Easy Being Green. And green flags come out. They're like a lime green and guns spin together. They have some great, great gun tosses here. And they go back to body, and they're dancing with a doll or something. Like they pick up like a small stuffy. I'm sure it's probably like a small like Kermit or Miss Piggy, or it's a Muppet doll, I'm sure. You couldn't see it, but I'm sure it's what it is. Then we switch music again to the Rainbow Connection, and they introduce solid flags of varying colors, so we know where this is going. They're going to end up making the rainbow on the floor with these solid flags. And then rifles and sabers come back out too for a little bit before they also come out with a flag, and eventually everyone has a color flag, and it's kind of jumbled, right? All the colors are mixed together, and then eventually the form locks into the rainbow blend. It's super satisfying because sometimes you can kind of see that, like, we know it's coming anyway. Like, we know they're going to make the rainbow, but sometimes when the flags come out, like they're already kind of close to where they're going to be. No, these kids were all over the place. And then all of a sudden the form just locks in and everybody's where they need to be. And you have this beautiful red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet across the floor. Excellent. Lovely. Very satisfying. They do a big toss ripple, And then they all go to the lamppost, and then they turn out the light at the end of the show. And then somebody brings out a little Kermit doll, and that's the end of the show. It was cute. As someone who grew up on the Muppets, and I have a deep connection to the Muppets, especially the movie Muppets Take Manhattan, this one really resonated with me. I just loved the idea. It was very cute. Second place was I Squared with their show Redamancy. And they have a maroon floor with white chairs, and the guard is in like a red unitard, like the pants from probably like from the Empire line down is red. And then they have a white Empire line top with a sheer white drapey fabric that drapes down kind of like a tunic. It's kind of like off the shoulders and it kind of opens at the rib cage and kind of spreads a little bit. And Shazam could not find their music. I tried and tried multiple times. Shazam was like, nah, nah, girl, we ain't doing this. So they start with body to saber and flags. And then the flags are white and black with a splotch of fuchsia on them. They transition to most of the color guard on gun. They only have like 13 performers on the floor, and each performer has a chair. And they use the chairs well and frequently. They move to a goldish flag with a design on it. I could see like a heart in there somewhere. So I couldn't tell. Maybe it was like jewelry or something kind of printed on there. And the ensemble toss was amazing. It was a gorgeous 45. They ensemble some more with this flag, and that was the end of the show. And I know this one's a quick one, but it was a tough run for them in finals, and it's just kind of the show just kind of went. The people are talented. It's just there just wasn't a lot for me to take from this one, unfortunately. First place was Zeus Independent with their show Orbit, and they had a gorgeous space themed floor of pinks and purples and blues with white orbit lines on it. And then they had 3 metal circle wheel props as well, and the guard was in purple, and they open with a big rifle exchange. Like, somebody runs out and then a gun comes flying across the floor to them. They dropped it in finals. Good recovery though, but we'll get that fixed. Boo-boos happen, right? We know boo-boos happen. And then they have lots of gun happening here in the beginning, different vignettes, just kind of over here, over there, over there. And then a black and white streaked flag is also on the floor. They do a gun toss exchange through one of the circle props, which was also really cool. And then they move to sabers and an iridescent flag with a cutout on the pole section, like where the sleeve is, like a half circle cutout. They continue to work saber and these flags before music starts to distort. And then they separate the circle props into half circles. So now they're using them like seesaws and they're standing in them and such. They have all 3 pieces working as the music builds and tosses happen, but we never get that resolution moment, unfortunately. Like, I felt like they could have capped off that moment by like a nice rifle line toss. It just watching it, I'm like, I didn't get that resolution. So I would maybe look at that and say, hey, we're doing this build and build and build and build, and just put that period on the end of the sentence, right? Just go that exclamation point, just go boom, right? Give me that boom. Give me that yes. I didn't get that. A cool, spacey kind of pink, white, and blue flag comes out, and they build and build to an ensemble with these, and they still have a small gun line on the floor as well. They have a huge gun toss into a flag ensemble. They catch in flag explosion, even though the flags have already been spinning. And then the guns join in and they're spinning while everyone orbits the center prop. So the whole form is kind of spinning around a center prop. And they have a really nice cannon section because it's not really a ripple, it's more of a cannon. And then we end up into a unison 45. And the silk design has a white streak that's right in the rotation point. So when they're clean, it gives extra effect, but when they're not, it makes them look dirtier than they are. So we'll have to scrub this flag feature to make sure we're getting the most out of this. Right now, it's looking very good. When we have a couple ticks, it's just because of where that white line is, it just makes them look even more off than they are. And then they finish the body. I like this one. They're in that point where it's like, okay, let's get to cleaning. So that's a good point to be at, right? Like, it's okay. We don't have any glaring issues. Let's get to cleaning. And I like it. Congrats to Zeus. Let's move on to Scholastic World. We had 5 groups in competition. 5th place was Chino High School with their show Breakthrough. They had a purple and black floor, and the guard is in dark red or purple uniforms. They had fabric panel props on the floor that are essentially like 1 person wide, like so maybe 2.5 feet wide. And they had like, I don't know, 12, 15 of these. And they had like a burgundy sheer material on them that were like 2 pieces like curtains. And I couldn't get the music to trigger. They start with body. And then sabers enter with some solo tosses, and the whole guard is spinning saber. And the cool thing they do with this show is they all spin saber, then they all spin gun, then they all spin flag. A lot of training there required to get all of your members to be able to do that. So they have this feature where they're all spinning blade, and then they start to bring in guns, and then everyone switches over to gun. They have a big rifle feature there before going back to body. And then they introduce a pink flag. And eventually everyone moves to this pink flag except for one performer who stays on gun for a little bit, has a couple solo moments. And then they pick up a flag and then we feature out and the show is done. It's fine. And I don't want to be negative, but I do think they'd be much more successful in open class. But it's a nice show. I like the idea. I like the entire color guard does saber. Then they all do gun. Then they all do flag. I do like that. So good job, Chino High School. Fourth place was Palm Desert High School with their show Fractured Dimension. And their floor is all black. And they have black rectangle and cube props with light trimming on them, like LED light strips on them. And they're in some sort of gray unitard for the costumes. I think there's a pattern on them. And they have two like tower style rectangle props pushed together at the start of the show. And they open them up and a kid runs out, runs forward with them really fast, tosses, does a backflip and catches. I mean, come on. Come on. I mean, just like that's the first like 5 seconds of the show. They open the props. This kid runs out, tosses a 7, backflips, and catches it. And then they continue right out of that with popcorn tosses. They say hello very well. Like they grab you by the throat right from the beginning with this show. They're like, look at us. There's some really cool exchanges happening here. Most of the color guard is on gun. And they end up moving into like kind of two pods of rifle, and some are doing double time and others are doing tosses, and they have ripple tosses as the props turn around, and then they have a prop that turns around and the saber person is inside and they come out, and then the props also start to light up. Just lots and lots and lots and lots going on. And then they have a down moment that begins and some more sabers come out and flags with the black and white pattern come out. They work all three pieces of equipment for a bit in the down moment, and then they dwindle off to just body. Then they have another big energy change as a red, white, and gray flag comes out. And a couple of the props, they start blinking, but only some of them. And eventually 5 of them start blinking. I don't know what it's meant to represent, because even like listening to the voiceover, I wasn't connecting with it. Granted, it's hard to listen to the voiceovers when the crowd is screaming for tosses and stuff like that. But I couldn't hear anything that was like, oh, this is why they're blinking. They eventually build to an ensemble statement with these same silks. And they have a cool moment in the flag feature where half of them toss and do like a log roll underneath, where they roll on their stomach, while the other half exchanges across the floor. So, Susie, who's dead center, chucks her equipment like a third of the way across the floor to Debbie, who's over there, while the other half of the guard is log rolling under a 45. Hey, Susie. Hey, Debbie. They end with 3 guns who toss and turn with a partner latched onto them, and then body ends the show. They're getting better. I like this a lot more than last year. I think they're getting stronger. It has a lot of cool, fun moments in it. I don't get the blinking of the props, but that's such a minor thing. What the kids are doing on the floor is incredible. I think they say hello very well. I think they have some cleaning to do like everybody else. But yeah, and they're going to go to Dayton this year. I know they pulled out last year, but they are going this year. So wild card guard, you never know. Let's move on to third place in Scholastic World with Chino Hills High School with their show Chroma Fracta. And this is the crayon show. They're crayons. They're crayons. And this was super cute. The floor is mostly white, and they have like white cylinder props that are basically they're paint cans. Like spoiler alert, at the end of the show, they're paint cans. They don't actually have paint in them, but they symbolize paint cans. And they're large, like they're big. They're probably like 4 feet wide and 4 feet tall. And they have a crayon box that they assemble, and all the performers are in crayon-inspired costumes of various colors. So a performer is head to toe one color. So one's in purple, one's in pink, one's in a fuchsia, one's in a yellow, one's in a dark orange, one's in a light orange, just like you would see in a crayon box. And I think the costumes have like black lines on them, kind of like the Crayola crayons do, but it's not like a literal interpretation. It's just inspired by. They all start the show in the crayon box before they bust out, and they break down the crayon box, and the color starts spilling out all over the floor. Rifles come out and show off at the beginning. I mean, they're just having a field day. Rifle line tosses. The rest of the crayons break out. We have white silks with the guns on the floor because there's a lot of color within the body and there's more color coming later. So the silks are just white. And the music is very fast. It was called Fuse by New Deco Ensemble. New NU, not NEW. So if you want to look it up. They add sabers to the mix and they use all the props. They're standing on them. They're spinning on them. They're rolling around on them, like just doing what you'd expect a world guard to do. The music continues to drive, and all 3 pieces continue to work. And then we hit the end of that piece, and then the down moment comes. And then Colors of the Wind, a cover of it from Pocahontas, comes in. And solid flags to match the uniforms come in. And I'm sure they got these printed at the exact same place because they are the literal exact same shade of the uniforms. And we get a lovely flag feature here. And just like with Arius, they're all jumbled until a rainbow pattern is formed. And it's excellent. It's excellent. Beautifully done. They're all in a separate color. And it's so pretty. The music changes again back to something up tempo, and the rifles start getting chucked out on the floor, and then the paint can barrels open up, and they have guns inside, and they're throwing those out, and then they knock over the paint cans and they pull out like yards and yards of material, and just like these traditional Crayola colors, like red, purple, yellow, green, just like these hyper saturated, just standard colors to kind of signify like paint kind of spilling out all over the floor. And we're all spinning within the prop and these fabric. And then they pick up the fabric and the guns toss over the fabric and go under with a knee slide. And then, almost like in a panic moment, they quickly reassemble the crayon box. Everybody's back in, and the show ends. I love this so much. This is such a cute show, and it's so different. And yes, kids, you're amazing. I love this show. So cute. I can't wait to see this one again. Second place was El Dorado High School with their show It Starts as a Whisper. And the floor is green leaves on a floor with tons of giant tube props. Some are thinner, some are fatter, and they stand probably 10 feet tall. And the leaves are kind of like those big, thick leaves you'd see like on tropical plants, not like small leaves, like they're just big leaves. It's really pretty. And the guard is in brown uniforms of velvet in the center of the body. And then along the arms and legs, it's like a brown sequin. Sort of nice sparkle. And the show and voiceover is inspired by the poem What Happened When We All Stopped by Tom Robert Karnka. And it's narrated by Jane Goodall. And there's a lot to unpack here, and I can't get it all. So we're going to blanket statement for the show. They use the tubes so well and a lot. They change the stage so much with them in all sorts of ways, and it's what you'd expected of a top tier World Guard. It's just so much to try to catch and process. And I watched this 3 times, and I know I didn't catch everything. So I cannot tell you everything they do with these tubes because they do so much with them. The way they section off the floor, the way they use them with equipment, the way they use their bodies, they go inside them, they put equipment inside them, all these things, right? All of these things. So when you get to watch the show, just remember they're going to be doing all these cool things. But just it's too much to try to process and then explain to you via podcast because it's a lot. And I struggled with this at a couple other color guards too. They start with saber and a yellow leaf flag, and they have big flag exchanges, and then poof, they're gone. Just a quick 4, 5, 16s, and the flag is gone. But they throw this 45 where it gets chucked to somebody on the outside of the floor. They spin them, and then they're gone. The sabers keep the stage, and there's lots of tube movement and stage setting here. The music moves to something a little more upbeat, which is kind of a new feel for El Dorado. I like that they're, kind of taking a different approach. The guns join in with a new flag of brown and green, and the color schema is just very earthy, right? Except for the end of the show, it's all very earthy and greens and browns and like the golden tones to match like the uniforms, the floor, and whatnot. They do tosses under, over, around, inside, outside, all the sides of these tubes, guns and flags, anything you can think of, they're doing the tosses and spinning around them. Guns and flags, doing them both. The guns keep the floor, and there's lots of more tube work here. Then they hit a music stop, and we enter a down moment. And then throughout the show, they start to stand the tubes up, like kind of in the back of the floor, almost like creating a forest, like as if we're rebuilding a forest and reversing deforestation kind of thing. Or, maybe to symbolize plants growing after planting seeds. Because I feel like, you're trying to watch the show and process the voiceover at the same time, which can, for me, is difficult at times. It can be overstimulating. So I tend to zero in on the performers rather than the voiceover. But I feel like I heard things in the voiceover about planting seeds and this and that. So maybe these tubes standing up are the sprouts of the seeds we've planted. That's my guess. The music takes a bright shift, and then out come these floral flags in yellow and pink and orange and purple, just like you'd expect in a field of flowers. It's very pretty. And there's lots going on in the flag feature, lots of little things. This person's spinning, that person's spinning, this little group is spinning. And then out of nowhere, they hit in unison. And it's a really cool moment because it just kind of catches you out of nowhere. And they're spinning very quickly in unison. And then it goes right back to featurettes. Like it's such a cool how they just lock in together and then they separate again. Very, very cool. Then they lay the flags down and kind of drape the silks out. And I think it's meant to like mimic flowers, like with the way the patterns work and everything. And then it all comes to the center to finish the show. It's very nice from them. I apologize. I don't feel like I can give this justice because of everything they do with these tubes. It's just so involved and so intricate, but the kids are amazing. It's what you'd expect out of El Dorado. I do like that it's a little bit of a different take from them, like a little more upbeat, a little more, I don't know, because last year was gorgeous. Oh, the flag feature last year was stunning. But it was a very down, long narrated show. And the year before was kind of like that abstract ice kind of show. It's a little more straightforward. I would love to see this one again so I could kind of catch more of it. But nicely done, El Dorado. Let's move on to first place with Arcadia High School with their show Rewired. And y'all buckle up because this, you thought El Dorado had a lot to talk about? Woo, Arcadia. Okay. Their floor is mostly black. They opened the door, like there was a lot of light in the gym, and you could kind of see maybe there was a hint of red or purple in it or something, but it's a very dark floor. They have a very dark stage. And they have 6 spool props that sit on the floor and don't move. And they use them as stages, and they can kind of like curl up into a ball and go inside of them because the spools are empty. And they're in like a light gray unitard with dark gray, dark blue lines on them. And they're also wearing small harnesses like on their upper body. And they have like almost like a little utility belt. And then there's tons of red like rope or cording that they wrap around their waist as a belt, something like that. I highly recommend you go to their Instagram so you can see close-ups of everything because it's all there. You get the high definition pictures, you can see everything that's on there because it's going to help you understand what's going on the floor because I think even in person you probably couldn't catch it all with your eyes and we know the camera is not going to catch all of this. So I had to do a lot of side research on Instagram to kind of explain this to you. And the big trick or concept in this show is that they use these like utility belts or cording on the equipment to spin or manipulate it or to shoot it across the floor like a zip line. So they use carabiners or like D rings, D clips to connect the equipment to these ropes and they'll either spin the equipment while holding the rope or like I said they'll do like a zip line and they'll shoot guns across the floor like literally halfway to two-thirds of the way across the floor like a zip line. At one point they connect 4 guns to one performer's body in like a north, east, south and west kind of thing. So the guns are connected to rope at the bolt. They have like a little piece that's on the bolt that has a circle in it that they can clip into and then they're all hanging off her, and she just spins in a circle, and they're just spinning like they're orbiting her, just flying through the air. It's so freaking cool. Kind of like the swings at an amusement park. Have you ever gone on the swings where you go up in the air and you're just swinging? That's what it looked like. They have a flag feature where there's a piece of the red cording that's taped to the end cap. And once again, if you go to Instagram, you can see exactly how they did this, but they literally they put it on the pole and about like 6 inches from the bottom of the pole all the way down, they taped it. So it is on there. And they'll do this whole flag feature where they're spinning the flag by the cord. They're not even touching the pole. They're spinning a 6-foot flag by holding onto this red piece of cording. Yeah, crazy cool. They hook the sabers into the D rings, and then they'll hang onto the cord and spin the sabers around. I mentioned the rifles have a special attachment on the bolt so they can connect to that. It's just the whole concept is so inventive and so creative. I just the little things they do, and there's so much to take in. Like you have to see this show multiple times. You will not catch everything on a first viewing. I can guarantee it. The music is called Cables Rewired, and it's like an electronica piano piece. And let's talk about the flow of the show now that I've kind of explained kind of like tricks and the concept and what they do. But they all start balled up in the spools. Like every performer is in within one of the spools except for a soloist who's tucked away in the back corner. And they kick us off with body. Like the music starts and they stand up and they're doing body. And rifles enter very quickly. We get a rifle that gets zip lined to a performer right on the 50. They quickly unclip and then join the rest of the rifle line in a toss. One thing about Arcadia, right? And I know a lot of guards do this, but I think specifically to Arcadia, when they have a prop, they use it in every way imaginable. We think to when they did the show with the black and white boards, all the things they did with that, the octopus tentacles, right? All the crazy things they came up with and did with this. And here we are again this year with these cords and D rings and connecting their equipment to them and doing whatever they can with them. So, yeah, use your imagination. They're probably doing it. So, they have red flags that enter, and then rifles are being swirled around on the spool props. They have a rifle that's connected to a rope and they're spinning it over their head like a lasso. It's just spinning around and around while other rifles are spinning while sitting on the spools. They're doing all these world-class things with lots going on over here, over there, and then we lock into a 3-circle set in the center. We have a circle of flags, a circle of body, and a circle of guns. And they have an ensemble moment where we're all around the center spool, and they're spinning and dancing, and they're weaving in and out of each other. We've seen these moments in Color Guard, so you know what I'm talking about. It's excellent. They do a great job here. And then ripple tosses lead us to a saber entrance, and they're clipped onto the hilt, and they're spinning from the cord. And then we move to a weapon feature of guns and sabers. And we have a rifle replacement toss sequence, right? Where you toss and you run away and somebody runs up and catches your gun. And then that takes us to a popcorn feature. And then that leads us to a flag explosion. Yay! We love a flag explosion. Now, this wasn't a true flag explosion because I think they were already spinning them, but who cares? I love a flag explosion anyway. And then these flags are really cool. So they look like when you're looking at them, they just like lines, right? Like a blue, a teal, an off-white, and a red line. But when you actually look at the silk, they're like it's like a digital picture of like wires in a coil. They're all the same print. All the flags are the same print. They're mostly tealish with one red line through them, kind of like the bottom quarter of the silk is where that red one is. And these are the same flags that have the cord attached to that I mentioned earlier at the bottom end cap, and they're spinning it from there. And like I said, once again, please go to their Instagram and check them out so you can get a close-up view of what they're doing. They ensemble with these flags with a few guns on the floor, and then they all go to the spools and they climb inside while holding their flags upside down. So the pole is up and the silk is down. And then they drape the silks around themselves to make it look like the spools are full of wire. It's so damn clever. Like you don't realize that these silks are going to make an integral part of the prop, and that's how they finish the show. It's just they go to the prop and then they're draping the silk, and you're like, oh my god, there's spools of wire now. It's just so clever. This design team is amazing. These kids are amazing. The end of the show, a flag zip lines across 2/3 of the floor to a person on body, and you know they had a bobble in prelims, and then finals. This thing flew like a lawn dart. I think this performer was like, I am getting this flag to her this time. And it just shot across the floor. Very cool effect. This concept is the best I've seen all season, and this would be my favorite to win. The concept, the thought, the design is all there. They need to get their execution up, though. They need to get their execution to match if they want to take gold. They still have a month till Dayton, so plenty of time to clean and iron out kinks with the clips because they're still having a couple issues with kids unclipping, and they got to figure it out, and they will. But we know what the other Scholastic World Guards are going to bring to Dayton, right? We know what Avon and Woodlands and Tarpon and Flanagan, we know what they're going to show up with. So if Arcadia wants to take this one home this year, they're going to have to get that execution up. And you know what? I really believe they could take it home this year. Looking at this show, I'm not going to lock and say they're winning. You can't change my mind. But for right now, they're my favorite to win if they can get cleaner. And then let's also recognize what they're asking these kids to do is so, I mean, just the insane layers of difficulty they're adding to this by clipping into this equipment and shooting it and asking them to quickly remove these clips. I mean, you're adding so much more difficulty to it. So I love it. I love this so much. It's going to be very hard to beat when it's clean. Very hard to beat. Yeah. Good luck, Arcadia. Last block. Let's move on to Independent World. We had 4 groups here. 4th place, we had Phoenix Independent with their show Standing on the Horizon. And they have a pale yellow to orange floor with kind of pale hexagonal patterns on it. And they're in these beautiful orange costumes. I love orange. Ugh, costumes are great. Anytime I see orange in color guard, I love. Throwback to Centerville High School 99, maybe? Might have been earlier than that when they did the orange sequin full bodysuit. Oh, amazing. But they have 6 hexagonal tower props on the floor and then 3 just kind of smaller hexagons. I don't know what they represent. I will say I didn't understand the concept in that regards of what they were using these props for and why they were gesturing to them. But, this is also my brain, right? We're talking about. So the music is Standing on the Horizon by Woodkid. And Woodkid is the same artist that did Phoenix Independence. The other that's really funny that does the other Phoenix Independence music, Auto. So both Phoenixes are using Woodkid for their music. Ooh, that's really interesting. Because I just thought of this in my head as this isn't even on my outline. I just thought of this as I was speaking. So Phoenix with the PH out of Ohio, the Hope Guard that did the mirrors last year, right? Their show this year, Auto, their music is by Woodkid. And then Phoenix, Fenix, that's at this show now, is using Standing on the Horizon by Woodkid. Fun little fact. They start around 3 towers that are stacked in a bridge formations. They have 2 vertical, 1 horizontal, and front side 2 corner. They open with body before a gun tosses over the prop and then runs through and catches. They have more guns enter and body moves with them. A gun ripple leads us to a flag cartwheel duo with purpley silks. So we have 2 flags, toss a nice big 45, cartwheel and catch. Then we have a replacement ripple from the guns. They toss and leave. Somebody catches it, somebody else catches it. While the flags sort of take center stage, sabers join in, and then we have all 3 pieces work on the floor. And they have all these nice tosses on these high notes, hitting the soundtrack. And the music is very interesting, much like the other Phoenix's music. You're like, this music is kind of weird, but I'm into it. Not like this music is weird. No, this music, it's like intriguing, like interesting, weird. So I dig it. The weapons continue and they continue to work with dancers. They have a very nice sit roll ripple into a split catch. Yes, rifles. Yes. Like I said, I'm not sure what the towers represent, but they move them around and they gesture to them. And then a gun ripple where the prop runs across the floor as they toss leads us to a teal flag entrance. So the rifles stand in its place and they toss, and then they run this prop across the floor after the guns toss. But that leads us to this teal flag entrance that really pops against the color palette on the floor. It's a good color choice. And the tail end of the flag is the same kind of color, that pale yellow of the floor. It's really pretty. So that teal section just really pops. They have some trio work with the gun, flags, and body, and then boom, we're ensembling with them. They have a sky high 45 with a turnaround before coming to the horizontal 50 and ending with body. I like it. I'm not sure I get the towers and props, but I dig the music and the vibe. So yeah, nice job, Phoenix with an F. Third place, we had Icon Winter Guard with their show Frisson. And this is pulled right from their Instagram because I had no idea what this word meant. So I went to their show announcement, and their IG description says that Frisson is the sudden shiver of awe when beauty, music, or meaning pierces the senses. A brief electric chill where emotion, memory, and perception align, reminding us we are deeply alive and connected to something larger than ourselves. So that's their show description. They have a solid black floor, solid black uniforms. They have 5 velvet circle tarps that they place on the floor. It's some sort of fabric. You could hear that it was kind of sound absorbing. So I'm assuming velvet because I know it's been done before. The music is very minimal, and they have light up ropes that they use throughout the show. And they have 8 of them, I believe. They have 2 per circle, and I think they take 2 of each to four of the circles. They all start kind of piled into the center circle. So the circle little velvet floor things are set up like you would see on a dice, right? On a die, a 5. So you have 4 in the corner, 1 in the center. And they all start like piled in on that, and they have those rope lights inside, and they open with body, and the ropes are lit up in like a blue indigo kind of color. They stretch them out to the 4 other circles, kind of like an X, where sabers pick up and toss, and then sabers work, and the rope lights are taken to those 4 circles. And then we have black flags with little small dots of color on them. There's like a little red, a little yellow, a little green on them, but it's mostly black. And they do a really cool lift with sabers and dancers and that spin at the same time. And then the music shifts and guns enter. They have a nice gun feature around the center circle where they all toss and run to the next gun. They continue to work with gun and the same flags. This is the only silk in the show, so the flags are always the same black with little splotches of color on it. But they continue to work with the gun and flags and body. And then eventually we all end up circled around the center circle and we're doing the spinning and weaving thing that we just talked about with Arcadia, right? We're weaving in and out of each other. And then we move to a flag ensemble with these black flags. And then they move to body and they grab the rope lights and they bring four of them to the center. So they leave one behind in each circle. And then, so I don't know if these rope lights are supposed to change color, but at one point there are like eight of them on the floor, and one of them was in rainbow, and the rest were in this blue color. And then towards the end of the show, another one changed to rainbow, but the rest stayed in the blue. I don't know if they're supposed to change, if that was an accident. Maybe there's something new coming down the line. I don't know. I didn't really get the rope lights, what they were representing. This show's probably a little too abstract for me, for my brain. Like I thought maybe because they have reds and greens and yellows on the flags, I thought maybe the ropes were going to change to those colors. And maybe they were supposed to, right? We've seen a lot of issues with light up electronics not working when we want them to. Poor Miamisburg a couple years ago. And then there was a guard at the Indy Regional, same thing. The lights were working in pre-show, and then the show started and they just didn't work. So maybe just some kinks to work out here. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure why that one was rainbow because it wasn't featured. Like it wasn't like a featured tube. Like, oh, look at this one. This one's different. No, it was just kind of. It's like, why is that one a different color? If anybody from Icon wants to share if it was just a tech issue or what, or if I'm just stupid, because that could very well be too. that, that could be very well be the answer as well. So we'll see them next time. Though I'm sure they'll be back out at the final regional of the season in the 21st, and see if maybe any tweaks they make. It's interesting for sure. So I'm intrigued to see what this looks like at the next regional. Let's move on to second place with Vox Ardeum World and their show When Spring Yearns for Winter. So there's a lot to go through here because I will say this is a change of pace from the past 2 years, and I love it. And it's a different vibe from them, but they didn't lose their Vox identity. And this is what I love what color guards do. Like they keep their identity, but they're not giving you the same thing over and over again. And I know I was very hard on them last year with that Beetlejuice show because it was because it was like a copy and paste of the Bloody Mary show. So I was very excited to see something completely different from them this year. And they tell a very great story and they use great song selections throughout the show to match each part of the story. So the story of the show, based on the tale from Greek mythology of Persephone and Hades. So very long story short, the story of Persephone and Hades is how the Greeks explain why we have seasons, right? We have spring, summer, fall, and winter. He kidnapped her. Her mom, the goddess Demeter, got mad and created a harsh winter and famine because she was upset. They worked out a deal so she could go back to her mom for half of the year and spend time with her. And that's when her mom was happy and we have spring and summer. But then when she has to go back to be with Hades, mom gets sad and we have fall and winter. That is the baseline synopsis. Obviously, it's way more involved and it's very interesting. I think a lot of people have an interest in this Greek mythology and all of that. So if you're interested in the story, go check it out. Vox twists the story on us, and the pre-show tells us that, oh, you think this is actually a love story. Many people tell this story as a tragedy, but it's actually a love story. So they twist it as in Persephone did this on her own as she wasn't kidnapped, like she chose to do this. The floor is gorgeous. It's a marbling of so many colors and it goes from light to dark, right? Because Persephone's in the overworld and Hades is king of the underworld, right? So we have the darkness for the underworld. And they have a ramp stage on backside one. And then they have two just, our traditional 4x8, maybe a little bigger wall panel props that we all use. They have one in the light corner and then one in the dark corner. And then they have uniforms to match the floor in these like, kind of pastel-y tones for now. Wink, wink. We have a costume change that comes. So we're in the overworld. We're in the Persephone section, right? And they open with body and four flags, one to represent each season. So they have a different color flag that we're going to see later in the show. And these four are amazing, right? They were like spit clean in prelims. I was like, wow, like the rotations were like perfect on everything. They begin to enter. They have lots of voiceovers throughout the show that explain the whole story to you. And I tried to collect them all for you, but it explains their take on the Persephone and Hades story. The sabers enter to Vivaldi's spring, since Persephone is the goddess of spring. And then rifles enter with a toss ripple in the back, and both weapons work the floor. Then the saber line whips out a great double turn. And then a spring colored flag starts to enter the floor, right? We're in the lights and the pinks and the purples, like, very, very light, very spring. Florals for spring. Groundbreaking. And all three pieces work. And then the voiceovers continue to tell us throughout the show that Persephone, basically, she wanted a bad boy. She wanted a little danger in her life, so she went looking for Hades, right? She's like, "Ooh," she's like, "I want a bad boy." That's basically what the voiceover says. So when this happens, out comes a performer in a costume change. So that pretty light costume is gone, and now we have a darker, tighter, shorter costume. And out comes a performer with a gun and this costume change, and he throws a 10. It was big. It was a huge toss. There was like a 10 on gun and caught it in a port. Just wow. Like, didn't even like fumble it. I mean, huge toss and just boop right in his hands. So the show tone shifts to the underworld. The colors start to darken and the uniforms change, right? We all move out of the light uniforms into the dark. And there's lots going on here, but all three pieces work. We have toss features. And then there's a fast-paced stringed piece that we've heard before, but I couldn't get my phone to trigger it because they have another song layered over it where the voiceover kept saying, me and the devil, because Hades is king of the underworld. And then there's lots of velocity. It's very high energy, and we keep going and tossing, like just they're going ham, right? It's controlled chaos though. Like it's not like what's going on. It's like, no, it's very controlled. And then we have another shift. And then the voiceover is talking about how she ate the pomegranate seeds by choice to create their bond. And now he has to wait for her when she goes back to the overworld. The song transitions to Right Here Waiting, like the song from the 80s, because Hades is going to wait for his boo to come back. They all move back to the light section, right? Because we're going back to the overworld. And the flags come out from the ramp prop, and it's a pretty blue and purple silk. And they do kind of like their classic feature where the boys are on flag and the girls are dancers and they're doing partner work. I think this is like their third or fourth year doing that in a row now. So this is kind of like their trademark. And eventually, four different color silks come out, the ones from the beginning. So we have a flag to represent spring, summer, fall, and winter. So everybody has one. All the seasons are spinning. And then everyone does a 45 illusion toss in a ripple. And then they have one more ensemble statement. And then the last little clever bit of the show is the final voiceover says, "This is our eternity." And the guard is in an infinity symbol and they're like running through each other, seeing like infinity forever. So this is our eternity, making that connection. So smart. Like the end. I love this so much from them. I'm glad they took a turn from the past 2 years and gave us something different, but still very Vox. It is excellent. Yeah, they're going to be a huge hit at Dayton. I love this. I love this so much. And let's move on to our first place color guard, which was Fantasia and their show After It, Therefore Because of It. The floor is really cool. It's like a 80s, 90s kind of inspired, almost like Miami Vice kind of look of pink, orange, and yellow. Just kind of like the colors are great. They're in purple uniforms with like small little accents of orange. They all start in backside two corner, and the show starts, and there's a voiceover that talks about improvisation. And the music is too hard to describe for this. It's one of those heavily mixed and edited tracks. There's a lot packed in there, but it's upbeat and jazzy. They open with body before guns get thrown in from the front. Like they pick up off the sideline, they're throwing into people in the back of the floor. And then sabers join guns and they work weapons and body for most of the show. They do have flags that come in near the end, but we know Fantasia likes to do a lot of weapon, and they've been known to do many shows that are just all weapon. So they do that here. It's I'd say 2/3 of the show is just straight up weapon, and everybody's on it. And they do separate features of sabers and guns before starting to build deck together. There's lots of hips and hair flips and hairography, and the crowd is getting into it. They're loving it. And honestly, I don't get the storyline of the show. If there is one, it could just be we're doing a color guard show, right? There are some guards that are like, we don't have a story. We're just spinning to the music and putting on a great show. I don't get the deeper thought of it. Once again, that could be back to me in my brain. They do have a down moment where they do body, and then we have a massive popcorn trick section with lots of motion on the floor. So you have people tossing, and if you're not tossing, you're running around. And this is how they start to build flags into the floor. They're coming in with just the poles. The flags are still stripped. Then a beatboxing section of the music starts, and all three pieces work. And the music is really cool here. And they have a flag line. They're not out for long, but they're out. And I will say, from the popcorn section to here was rough in finals. Like they'll get it cleaned up. They will, but this was a rough section in finals for them. And then they end up working their way to the front of the floor, and the show ends at the front with a final voiceover, and it says, "Improvisation is the art of making the unknown." So I was thinking to myself, maybe that's the point. Like, here's our show. Take from it what you will. There is no exact story. It's meant to be unknown. Maybe that's the whole point of it. I'm not sure. It's Fantasia. Performers are incredible. I just don't get the show. But maybe that's the point based on that final voiceover. If you love Weapon, if you love hair flips and hip twirls and hip rolls and all that, you're going to love this show. You're going to love this show. But that's it for the Manhattan Beach recap. Thank you so much for being here. I tried to get through as quickly as possible, so this wasn't too long. Next week is the Stewart Regional, which is where all the Florida guards will be coming out, and that's going to be our last recap of the regional season. I'm probably going to cherry pick a couple of color guards from the other regionals that we haven't seen. Like I know Kiski and Norwin are going to the Avon Regional, and I believe there's one or two at the Texas Regional, the Mansfield one, that we haven't seen yet. So I might be cherry picking a couple, but the majority of that recap is going to be Florida, and then we're done until we get to the Dayton recaps after Dayton. Don't forget about the community contest that we'll be doing for Dayton predictions. So make sure you're following on Instagram so you can get that information. And also the merch store. If you want to check that out, you want to get some Clap for the Flags gear, I encourage you to do it. The link is in Facebook, Instagram, and here in the show notes. I thank you so much for being here. And until next week, stay safe, stay fabulous, and remember, at the end of the day, it's just flags in a gym.